How many times have you promised yourself you wouldn't fall back into that same cycle? And still did. You shut down the computer, delete the app, swear you'll change. But the moment a trigger shows up, a notification, an ad, a wave of loneliness, you're back at it, stuck in the same script. It's almost like something else is pulling the strings instead of you. Most men never realize it, but Carl Jung described a secret weapon that could cut those invisible strings. A key to transform the very energy that enslaves you into the force that frees you. But hardly anyone uses it. That's why we see so many men exhausted, lonely, dependent on validation, trapped in shallow relationships, convinced there's no way out. The real question is, are you ignoring this weapon too, letting your life be controlled without even noticing? Jung wasn't talking about distant theories. He was describing mechanisms you feel in your skin every single day. He saw that when desire isn't acknowledged, it becomes a prison. But when it's integrated, it turns into power. And here's the key. A desexualized mind doesn't mean becoming cold or some monk with no emotions. It means reclaiming control, stopping the puppet show run by algorithms, ads, and impulses that drain your energy. Now imagine walking into a room without needing to prove anything to anyone. People just sense your presence. Imagine having relationships where you're not trying to fill a hole inside, but sharing what already overflows from you. Imagine waking up without that feeling that a system is feeding off your neediness. That's not a fantasy. It's what happens when you learn to transmute desire into clarity, magnetism, and purpose. And that's exactly what you're going to discover today. How to transform unconscious desire, the same one that used to leave you ashamed, lonely, and out of control, into conscious power. How to cut the invisible wire that keeps ordinary men stuck and become the rare man. The one who doesn't need performance to be respected because he carries within him a silent power. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this forgotten weapon can change not only your relationships, but your entire life. Have you noticed how today's world feels like a giant amusement park for your mind? It's like every click, every image, every notification is designed to pull your strings with invisible threads of desire. And the funny thing is, you even get a hit of pleasure at first, but right after comes that bitter taste of emptiness. It's not just about adult content or social media. It's about that constant feeling of being used as a battery for a system that profits off your weakness. Look at how it plays out in your daily life. You spend hours chasing tiny doses of pleasure. You open your phone just for a quick peek, and before you know it, the whole morning's gone. Or maybe you jump into a relationship thinking it'll fill that inner hole, but you end up repeating the cycle of treating a woman like an object, a fantasy, or just an escape valve. In the end, both sides end up frustrated. It's like a script you never wrote, but you keep acting in it as if you're just an extra. And maybe you've already noticed the other side of this slavery, the lack of presence. You know that guy who walks into a room and everyone just stops to listen? Not because he's loud, but because his energy speaks first? Yeah. While you're busy chasing validation, that kind of presence never shows up. And it's not because you don't have the potential. It's because your energy's being drained in invisible wars inside your own mind. It's like trying to light a fire with wet wood. The flame might spark, but it dies out fast. That emptiness, that sense that nothing's ever enough, isn't weakness. It's a signal that something deeper is begging for space. You grab quick pleasures, but it's like drinking salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you get. And the more you run from silence, the louder it screams. That hole you feel isn't a lack of stimulation, it's a lack of meaning. It's life reminding you there's something greater waiting for you to stop running in circles. Notice how even in social situations it shows up. The insecurity, the lack of natural magnetism, the anxiety when you're face to face with a woman. All of it comes from a fractured self. It's not that you don't know what to say or how to act. It's that you're always trying to be someone you're not. And when you don't acknowledge desire inside you, it leaks out as projection. You treat the other person as an extension of your own neediness, and real connection becomes impossible. But here's the harsh truth. As long as you don't wake up to these invisible chains, you'll keep serving a system that knows exactly how to manipulate you. The consumption industry feeds on your clicks, your anxiety, your unresolved desire. And every time you give in, you're not just wasting time or energy, you're handing over your power. Maybe it's in that very pain that the key to flipping the script is hiding. From a car commercial to the most innocent video on social media, there's always some sneaky trigger poking at your desire. It's like every scroll on your phone is an invitation to spend your energy on something that, in the end, gives you nothing back. And the craziest part? You don't even have to go looking for it. The stimuli find you, hijack your attention, and plant invisible seeds in your mind. Here's the analogy hardly anyone recognizes. Living today is like being trapped in a casino where every slot machine is flashing just for you. Lights, sounds, promises of quick rewards, everywhere you look. The difference is, in the casino, at least you know you're gambling. Out here, you think you're just browsing or killing time. But in reality, you're betting the most valuable currency you've got, your life energy. The system's clever, it's not accidental at all. Social media, ads, even the adult content scattered all over the place. It's all engineered to keep you needy, unaware, and hooked, because a fragmented man spends more, works more, and questions less. Hard truth? In this game, you're not seen as a person, you're seen as data, as a number, as pure profit. And until you cut that invisible wire, you'll keep running as a battery for the machine. I've been stuck in that cycle myself, thinking I was in control. All it took was opening my phone, and boom, hours vanished before I even noticed. It was like feeding tokens into a machine that never pays you back. But once you start to see how the mechanism works, the feeling changes. Anger kicks in, anger at being played, but it mixes with relief. Relief from finally understanding why it felt impossible to break free. And here's the question I want you to carry with you. What happens when you cut that invisible wire? When you stop being a hostage to the flashing lights and start channeling your energy consciously? The answer isn't obvious, but it's life-changing. Because that's when a different kind of power shows up, a natural magnetism that doesn't need outside validation. And funny enough, that's exactly when the things you've been chasing start coming to you instead. Before we move on, I want you to do something simple. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me which country you're watching from. And if you've got ideas for topics you'd love to see covered, share them too. Your engagement is what keeps this message alive and helps it reach others who are going through the same thing. And now, get ready, because in the next part, we're diving into what really changes when you take that first step. Have you ever noticed how the way you look at someone often says more about you than about them? Unconscious men carry fantasies in their heads and project them onto women without even realizing it. That projection creates an invisible weight, an energy you can feel without a single word being spoken. It's like his very presence says, "I'm not really seeing you. I'm only seeing what I want you to be for me." That energy is picked up almost instinctively. Women sense when there's something predatory in the air, even if the man is smiling and trying to play it cool. It's that strange discomfort, like an unspoken demand hanging in the room. And the irony is, the more unaware he is, the heavier that energetic field around him becomes. It's not what he says, it's what he radiates. And it leaks out in every look, every gesture, every forced silence. The best way to understand this is through the analogy of virtual reality glasses. Picture yourself putting on a VR headset and suddenly, instead of seeing the real person in front of you, all you see is the fantasy you've created in your head. She may be smiling, but through your filter, she's already become a character in your private script. The problem is, when you live this way, you'll never experience real connection, because the real woman stays hidden behind the hologram. This mechanism of the psyche, what Jung called the anima, is like a lens that distorts human contact. As long as you don't recognize this part of yourself, you'll keep projecting and believing you're seeing reality. But in practice, you're stuck inside a bubble of illusions. And every rejection you face, Every disappointment on a date carries the same reminder. You weren't actually seeing the person, you were only seeing your own reflection. Now think about this. How different does it feel to be with someone who doesn't treat you like a fantasy, but like a human being? That's the man who stands out. He doesn't need masks or illusions to connect. He sees the person who's there with her story, her complexity, her imperfections, and her real beauty. That presence brings relief, because suddenly there's no hidden weight, no silent demands, no predatory vibe. There's just space for an authentic meeting. And maybe that's why this kind of man feels so rare today. Most are stuck behind those fantasy goggles, never realizing there's another way to live. But when you start taking those filters off, something unexpected happens. Your energy shifts, your presence becomes magnetic, and your relationships start to transform. And yet, that's only the beginning of what unfolds once you break free from projection. A conscious man doesn't need to chase anything. He becomes the magnet himself. That's the part most people don't get. The more you go looking for validation, the further it slips away. The less you need it, the more naturally it comes. And this isn't some pickup trick. It's a psychological law. When you're whole, your energy doesn't beg, it broadcasts. And that alone completely changes the way the world responds to you. Women pick up on this instinctively. A man who isn't trying to squeeze out sexual validation carries a rare calm, a kind of quiet safety that you can feel even in silence. It's different being next to someone who sees you as a person, not as a disguised fantasy. That presence builds trust because there are no hidden demands, no heavy vibe of someone wanting something in return. There's simply space, and in that space, attraction grows naturally. This magnetism comes from something deep, the integration of opposites within yourself. Jung called it the transcendent function, a synthesis between desire and discipline, between flesh and spirit. It's not about repressing, and it's not about giving in blindly. It's about uniting. And when that union happens, you feel it in practice. You start living more whole, less fragmented, and even your posture changes. What used to be an inner battle turns into a quiet strength. Then something curious starts to happen. Little coincidences show up, but they don't feel like coincidences anymore. The right people appear, opportunities line up, unlikely situations unfold at the perfect time. It's as if the universe itself is responding to your new vibration. You stop being the one begging for space and become the one who naturally attracts it. The world, once indifferent, now seems to organize itself to open doors. The analogy is simple. When you stop running after things, the whole world starts running toward you. Think about the difference between a man who begs for attention and another who walks with purpose, unhurried. The first one suffocates, the second one magnetizes. It's not about technique, it's about inner state. This is the kind of energy you can't fake, because it comes from balancing the forces that once pulled you apart. And here's the unavoidable question. How do you get to that point without getting lost in desire, without falling into repression, and without killing your vitality? That's the key we'll unlock in the next step. And it's exactly where the real turning point begins. What separates an ordinary man from a conscious man is the inner work. And that doesn't mean locking yourself away in a cave or living without desire. It means learning to observe without being ruled by it. When an impulse shows up, whether it's grabbing your phone in the middle of the night or chasing validation in a comment, you've got two options. React automatically or breathe and simply observe. In that moment, you realize the desire is there, but you are not the desire. That tiny distance is already an act of freedom. This is the heart of shadow work, facing the parts of yourself you usually hide, even from yourself. Anger, neediness, lust, insecurity. All of it lives inside you, whether you admit it or not. Integrating the shadow doesn't mean giving those impulses the spotlight. It means recognizing them and bringing them into consciousness. Because what you repress ends up controlling you. But what you illuminate begins to work in your favor. It's like turning lead into gold, as the alchemists used to say. And here's where strengthening the ego comes in. A lot of people confuse ego with arrogance, but a strong ego is more like the root of a tree, steady enough to support the branches, even through storms. When you do this work, you're no longer dragged around by every passing impulse, because you've learned to name it, feel it, and direct it. Every desire stops being a command and starts becoming a reminder. Look inside. There's something here asking for your attention. I remember a personal experience that completely shifted how I saw this. I was about to open an adult site almost on autopilot like I had so many times before. But this time, instead of losing myself in the ritual, I stopped. I asked myself, what am I really looking for here? And I realized it wasn't pleasure. It was an escape from a loneliness I didn't want to face. That clarity was like opening a window. Instead of falling back into the habit, I used that moment to call a friend and have a real conversation. That kind of practice starts to change your energy. Because every time you observe instead of react, you strengthen the muscle of awareness. Little by little, what once felt impossible, not being ruled by impulses, starts to become natural. You don't stop feeling desire, but you learn to choose what to do with it. And those repeated choices build a new identity. A man who doesn't run from himself, but integrates himself. And maybe this is where the journey begins to take on another dimension. Because shadow work isn't just about overcoming addictions or cutting distractions. It's about moving toward the self, the whole version of you that already exists but is buried under layers of fragmentation. The question is, how do you bring that self into everyday life, into each decision, each relationship, each choice that looks small but is really shaping your destiny? Real transformation happens when you realize you don't need to fight desire, you need to transmute it. Jung, inspired by alchemy, used 3 symbolic stages to explain this process. First comes nigredo, the stage of confusion. You feel lost, trapped in impulses, stuck in the loop of quick pleasure. It's inner chaos, where it seems like there's no way out. But that's only the beginning, because the fire of disorder is what makes space for change. Then comes albedo, the stage of clarity. This is when you start to see the hidden game. You realize it's not desire itself that traps you, but the unconscious way you react to it. It's like someone switched on a light in a dark room. Suddenly you see furniture, doors, and windows that seemed invisible before. That clarity doesn't kill desire, but it changes how you relate to it. It's no longer an enemy. It's raw material for growth. And then comes rubido, the integration. Here, the parts of you that used to fight each other begin to cooperate. Desire stops being a force that scatters you and becomes fuel, to create, to build, to act with presence. This is the stage where you actually feel the shift in your body, in your energy, and even in how the world responds to your presence. You don't need to chase anymore, because magnetism starts to flow from within. In practice, this transmutation produces clear results. You become more present, because you're no longer being yanked around by invisible impulses. Your relationships change, because now there's authenticity instead of projection. Even your work gains a deeper purpose, since the energy that used to drain into distractions is redirected into something constructive. You don't just gain time, you gain power. The key is to understand that a desexualized mind isn't a weak mind. On the contrary, it's a free mind. Free to choose, free to create, free to love without hidden demands. This is the kind of freedom that transforms not just your intimate life, but your whole trajectory. Because once you master this energy, it becomes the invisible engine behind everything you touch. And the question that lingers is this: if this power is already inside you, what's still holding you back from transmuting it? Maybe the answer lies in the next step, where freedom stops being a distant idea and becomes a real way of living. The greatest weapon of the modern man isn't physical strength, money, or social status. The real weapon is a mind capable of turning desire into consciousness. Because the man who masters this inner alchemy doesn't need to shout to be heard or chase approval to be respected. He carries within himself a silent power the whole world recognizes. even without words. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That line isn't just a reflection. It's a warning. As long as you leave your inner forces in the dark, you'll keep living like a puppet to impulses and triggers. But the moment you bring awareness, the game flips. What used to be weakness becomes fuel. What used to be prison becomes freedom. So tell me, how much longer are you going to let invisible forces decide the course of your life? How many more days will you keep handing your energy over to automatic desires, to distractions that only drain you, to a system that doesn't care about you? The choice is right in front of you now, not tomorrow, today. If this message resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. And more than that, share your thoughts in the comments. I want to know which country you're watching from. Your participation is what keeps this community alive. And before you go, here's one more invitation. Don't stop here. The next video popping up on your screen will take you even deeper on this journey. Click it and keep expanding your awareness, because once you wake up, there's no going back.